For the first time, the State Department is now conceding the $400 million payment made to Iran earlier this year was tied to the release of those four American hostages. State Department spokesman John Kirby admitted yesterday they delayed making the payment for several hours to retain maximum leverage and ensure the prisoners were freed. He still insists, though, it was not a ransom. Even earlier today, he was saying it.
Nowhere in those discussions, nowhere was there any talk about ransom or payment to get our Americans back. We took advantage of the momentum, and it would have been foolish. And you and I would be having a much different conversation if we had gone ahead and released the money and then Iran reneged on the deal. There's not a lot of trust between the United States and Iran.
The Trump campaign put some of the blame on Hillary Clinton, saying she helped put together an Iran deal that likely funded terrorism, and that makes her unfit to be president. We'll talk about that in just a second. I kind of want to unpack this, though, from the beginning. So sometimes when you hear an admission, you'll hear an actual admission. This was kind of wrapped politically, and you kind of had to figure out what's really being said here.
I think Kirby was kind of caught off guard when James Rosen pressed him on the question. What could he say? I think he's an honest guy. I think he does his best to try to be honest. And he was honest, and that kind of pull the rabbit out of the hat. Look, the fact is we shouldn't be giving Iran any money for anything. What do they do with it? They turn around and they support Hamas and Hezbollah. They kill, they kidnap, including Americans. They support terrorism around the world. This is a regime that we should never negotiate with. We shouldn't have released the sanctions. We shouldn't have created the deal that gives them nuclear capacity. And we just shouldn't deal with them, period. And this has been Obama thinks it's going to be his legacy. It will be, but not in the way he wants it to be.
And not only are they using the money for bad things once they get it, but the fact that we gave that to them is creating a literal, tangible financial incentive to kidnap Americans.
Absolutely.
I want to point to Kirby's body language, because the truth really does hurt when it slaps you in the face, doesn't it?
It's like having a tooth taken out without the shot.
I want to point out something. We would not know about this ransom payment. We wouldn't know about any of this if not for the Wall Street Journal and its incredible reporting. And they are the ones who did the follow-up story that led to this admission. And in this story, you know that the Iran airplane, it was an Iran airplane that picked up this money in Geneva. That airline had been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department, and it was one day before this cash and prisoner transfer that these sanctions were lifted on this very airline because of this Iran nuclear
deal. A lot of convenient
deal.
coincidences.
Nothing to see here. Let's move along. You know, I mean, come on.
So then my question is, you've got $400 million. Part of that, so we've been told $1.7 billion that was supposed to go for weapons, but then the Shah was overthrown in the 1970s, so that money sat, and there was all this adjudication over whether or not they really should get the money. But we give them this money for leverage. Now, I know you say that Admiral Kirby was, being honest, but the most honest thing would be we paid them this money because we wanted to get our people home, right? Leverage, is that code for ransom?
Well, it was ransom. When you pay someone and you give them something in exchange for something else, the quid pro quo, this for that, that's what happened.
That's what the word means.
It means ransom. You may not call it ransom. You can call it charity, but it's still ransom.
I've said this before. Mark my words and watch the $2 billion that's in banks here in this country that's supposed to go to victims of Iranian-sponsored terrorism. Ahmadinejad has actually reached out to the president saying, we want that money back. Iran has 3 American prisoners. You watch a prisoner exchange happen before January.
Julie, you're very quiet.
I'm not quiet, actually. The one thing I want to say, I had this conversation with Guy Benson, of all people, last night in the green room, where I'm very torn, because I would hope that if it were my son who's in an Iranian prison, that we would spend whatever it took to get him out of it. On the other hand, of course,
the administration has said you're pretty much on your own if it's your kid over there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
there's no defense of either. This is a difficult situation. There's no good answers to it. I don't even know what.
So they pick and choose.
Here's
the
answer. Stop lying. Stop lying to the American people and treating us like a bunch of fools.
Well, that part is true. I agree with that.
All right. Last word.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. Just breaking it real. Controversial new rules at a top university to encourage gender equality. But now critics say an all-women's group is being given a pass, while all men's clubs are slapped with sanctions.